the Marc Patrone radio program, heard exclusively on News Talk, Saga 960.
More sordid revelations coming out of these emails that were discovered on a computer in Delaware, abandoned at a computer repair shop. Hunter Biden's emails and texts. This latest story from the New York Post show not just a politician's troubled son angling for lucrative overseas business deals, they also reveal a concerned father, a fun-loving friend, and a man tortured by the deaths that have devastated his family. In a text message exchange from 2018, eldest daughter Naomi, named after Biden's late sister, who was killed with their mother, Nelia, in a 1972 car crash, pleaded with her dad for emergency cash. Can you put $150 in my account? I was just declined for a lift to the airport. Sorry. Now the 26-year-old Columbia law student is quoted as saying in this story. Before we get to Miles Christian near Madison, Wisconsin, let's listen a little bit to this exchange on Fox and Friends this morning as the team on Fox interviewed Rudy Giuliani.
The president's personal attorney and former mayor of New York City. Mayor, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing okay. We're just sorting through these many new emails. There's plenty to go through, including as
my gosh, about 10,000 more, yeah.
Well, you would know because you've got them. Griff was just talking about how it sounded like Hunter was trying to get a deal with a Chinese energy firm, and then in another one back in 2017 sent by Robert Biden, and we should say that is what these are believed, involves a deal where it appears Hunter is asking for $10 million a year. It seems as you are the source of these emails, right?
Well, not really. The source of the email is a merchant, a guy who repairs hard drives that Hunter Biden left it off with. He's actually been interviewed by the press and affirmed that. He had them for quite some time, and he actually turned them over because the FBI had them for 6 months and done nothing with them. And then he was quite upset with the coverage, the kind of coverage you're describing tonight, about how this morning about how unfair it was. He happens to be a fan of mine, unlike Biden's attorney, and thought I was being treated very unfairly. Yeah, so he called my lawyer, and he said, I have a group of emails that are shocking to me, and display right on the face of it a number of federal crimes. And I'm even a lawyer. Yeah. So my lawyer went down there. He vetted him for 2 weeks, actually. And I emphasized to you how this is authenticated. First of all, I did, and my lawyer did. Okay, you don't have to accept that. I gave them to the New York Post, and they held them for a week and authenticated them. I mean, I don't think the New York Post would publish them without being absolutely certain they're authentic. Finally, they don't even dispute that they're authentic, and I'll give you the best one of all. The big mouth lawyer made a very big mistake. Before this was even out, when it was just they were called about it, first thing he does is call that merchant, and he says, can I have my client's hard drive back? So he's basically admitting for his client, as his client's agent.
So there you go. So the lawyer for Hunter Biden has basically compromised himself and admitted that this hard drive was in fact Hunter Biden's by saying, hey, my client wants his computer back. Miles Christian joins us from the Madison area. Miles, what do you make of all this?
Well, there's no doubt that Joe Biden's son is dirty and that he used his father's connections to get not just jobs, but basically illegal transactions. And you know, I mean, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, the whole story of Ukraine and America's involvement, Russia's involvement, and various companies' involvement. I mean, you've got these proxy wars, and you know, it kind of reminds me of like Libya, and as well as where you have these countries being overthrown by another country, and then the United States is in the middle of it, Russia's in the middle of it, and then you've got all these other people in the middle of it, and there's so many details to the whole situation, and it's so corrupt all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, Joe Biden himself is up to his neck in this whole thing, because the deal is that right towards the end of the last administration, the Obama-Biden administration, what was going on, and that's been pretty clear now, according to the way it's been laid out, and it's painfully obvious that what went on here was that Hunter Biden had this very lucrative contract with this natural gas company, Burisma, in Ukraine. And Burisma was in legal trouble. They were under investigation for corruption in the Ukraine. There was a prosecutor that was going after them like crazy, and Burisma wanted to use its connections with the United States to get this prosecutor off the company's back to drop this investigation. So what did they do? They curried favor with the administration through Hunter Biden. They used Hunter, the fact they were paying him somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 a month, and they say, could you do this? And what ended up happening, as we now know, is that the United States dangled this $1 billion in foreign aid to Ukraine as leverage and used that foreign aid money in order to pressure Ukraine to fire this prosecutor and to drop his investigation into Burisma. And so basically, if that was the goal, then that's the way it laid out. So here you have a vice president of the United States using foreign aid money, using Americans' money to leverage help for a gas company in which his son, the vice president's son, was getting in tens of thousands of dollars every month. And then there is this video that we have access to. Let's listen to what Joe Biden himself said actually happened.
I'm desperately concerned about the backsliding on the part of Kyiv in terms of corruption. They made, I'll give you one concrete example. I was not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones, so I got Ukraine, and I remember going over convincing our team or others to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over, I guess the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I'm not going to, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Yeah, so there you go. Here he is bragging about how they got this prosecutor fired because he was investigating Burisma, the company that was paying his son tens of thousands of dollars a month. This stinks. That absolutely stinks.
On top of it, why are we giving away billions of dollars when we are trillions of dollars in debt, Yeah,
exactly. That's another side of this. But why hasn't this completely destroyed the Biden campaign?
Well, for instance, I've got a family member, hardcore Democrat, and, it doesn't matter what points I bring up, it gets ignored, or it's like if I say, hey, Joe Biden's son did this, it's like, well, Donald Trump Jr., this, that. And it's like, and hey, I'm no fan of Donald Trump Jr., but shoot, you compare the two. Biden's son is way worse on so many things.
Well, he's severely compromised, Miles, as you know. The guy's a crackhead. These sex tapes. So the Chinese, they have all these videos. So they've been, they also had a contract with the Bidens. So here you have the Bidens, have these long-standing financial ties with both China and Russia, Ukraine. I realize that it's two different areas of the world, two different countries. But, you really have to wonder whether this guy is capable. Forget the cognitive decline in this guy. What about all these compromising situations that his family has been involved in with both China and Russia?
Yeah, no doubt that they can't be trusted when it comes to this stuff. And
so, what's your think? Which way is Wisconsin going to go? Which way is it going to go, do you think?
Wisconsin, in the end, Wisconsin probably will go for Biden because last time, Hillary only won it, or Hillary
lost.
Hillary lost it, only by a small amount of votes. We're talking a few thousand. And the funny thing is for, several years now in Wisconsin, we've been seeing all these kids, I mean, we're talking high schoolers and middle schoolers having these large rallies that are basically using schools to facilitate them. The schools are literally putting tax dollars into these rallies. It's like, oh yeah, march out of school, go to the Capitol for an environmental rally, anti-gun rally, so forth. And then they get there and all these Democrat speakers are speaking and the whole town helps to, marshal these events, put taxpayer dollars into these events. And I've been contacting, state Republican reps and saying, why aren't you doing something about this? These rallies are using tax dollars for a political agenda. And I went to a school where my teachers had a very hard right-wing agenda during the George W. Bush era. I didn't like that. And now I see the opposite. It's like teachers shouldn't be pushing a political agenda. And I'm just saying that I think that's going to play a factor, is that they have completely ignored the fact that tax dollars are being used to push a very hard political agenda in the schools. And so as these kids now become 18, I mean, that's going to represent, tens of thousands of new votes potentially. And, Wisconsin could be, flipped just by the matter of 10,000 votes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it'd be something if Trump could hold on to Wisconsin. It'd be a huge. I mean, Pennsylvania is really.
That's the bigger question.
That's the big.
I mean,
that's
Pennsylvania,
the big one.
Florida, potentially Arizona. I mean, if Trump loses Pennsylvania, Florida, and Arizona, and say Michigan or one other state, I mean, it's 3 or 4 states could make this whole electoral college go the opposite way as it did last time.
But Trump is pretty confident. I mean, you could say that he's faking, but I don't think he does fake it. I think this guy came out and said there's going to be a red wave on the way. And the crowds, they've been showing up to these events. I mean, nobody's been showing up to Biden events. You get maybe 50 people on a good day. And that's even when he shows up with Kamala Harris. Meantime, even the vice president, Pence, has been attracting like 4,000 people to his events. I mean, do you put much stock in that?
Well, I mean, even before COVID, Democrats weren't making an effort to get people to their events. It was more like you had to be on the email list. They really, even pre-COVID, it was like Democrats didn't really want to have large events because what if a protester shows up with a sign? And it would always be like, oh, politician so-and-so is visiting some students at the university. I mean, the Democrats, they do photo ops. They don't really do rallies, because they don't want to risk the chance of being asked tough questions or being in some viral video. And, hell, if you look at the times when Biden was campaigning, he would swear at union workers, or, of course, there's the listen fat video, which... I mean, when he called the guy in Iowa fat, it was just like, what? Or, dog-faced pony soldier.
It just never ends. He puts his foot in it every time he opens his mouth. But, Miles, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Miles Kristen joining us from in the Madison area. Quick time out. Back with our final scintillating segment of the week next.
Stream us live at saga960am.ca.